In this video, we're going to explore how we can add up some data sets, how we can remove data sets, how we can add up data, remove data, and of course, how we can add up nice labels, as you can see here, as this is starting to change. So let's start to explore how we can create this interactivity and make the chart in Chartjs more dynamic. In this video, we're going to answer one of the viewers' questions, and this is we're going to how to add data and datasets on click in Chartjs. So this question came from one of my other videos here regarding to Chartjs background color animations for bar chart, which is quite interesting to watch because you will see these colors here adjusting consistently. However, in here, there's a question from Gerardo Martinez Esparza. A special thank you to Gerardo for asking this specific question. And he asked the following: how can I add actions like adding data and datasets as a button? So we're going to put it as a button. How will we do this? Well, let's start with the beginning. First of all, let's go to chartjs3.com getting started. Make sure you get this link. We're going to copy this chunk of code here. And if you want to understand the JavaScript of this, just make sure you check out the video here above. So what I'm going to do in here, I'm going to just paste this in here and cut out this chunk of code or this text and replace this here. So once I did this and save this and refresh, you can see now we have a nice chart added here. So this is just a basic bar chart in version 3.5. And what we want to do now is we want to add two buttons here, basically where we can add up the data or the data set. So what I'm going to do here is I'll just make two buttons specifically on, let's give you a button first. And this one will say add data set. And another one, what I will do is, just to put it here extra. So with the other one, we're just going to add up a delete or remove button. Basically, we're going to remove the dataset and add the dataset first. Afterwards, we're going to work with other items, adding some data into a specific one here as well. So we're going to say here, remove the dataset. To understand this, you need to understand the following. You must be familiar with some JavaScript items here. So I'm going to show you here, for example. So what we're going to do in here is, well, what I will do is I'll just copy this item here. And I'm going to show you something that is essential to understand. So I'll just say labels here equals this. All right. Then this will be equals labels. Very straightforward. So with arrays, basically what we're going to work with is an object array. And with this, we're going to use pop and add, or basically what is the add? If I'm not mistaken, it would be the push value here. So this is very important. So if you pop, you remove a certain value. And if you push, you add up a certain value. So in our case, we have here, and this is an array is in itself. This data set is an array, which you can see because of these brackets here, but it consists of values within the data set. So this is basically an array in an array here, and this is another array, and these are another values within the array as well. But this is an array in array, and this is just a string text in the array itself. So there's multiple layers. So what we're going to do is basically we're going to add up just a new data set. So normally you're familiar with doing this. If we add up a new data set, we just put a comma and do this and save. And if I refresh now, we have now two data sets. The same will eventually be with the add and remove item. So basically add, we're going to push a new array into this specific part, the data sets. We're going to add up a new data set value, because this here is what we call a data set index 0. And this comma here would indicate here that this would be data set index 1. So what we're going to do now is just going to use push and see how we can add that one up here. All right. So to do this, we're going to make it a function, a very simple function here, and this function will be called add data set. And here we put in here basically where the buttons are. Let's see here. All right, here is an on click equals add dataset function. That's the function name. Here any arguments. In this case, no need. We just leave this blank. That's fine. And what we want to do eventually is here, we just check if this is connected. So the moment we click on this, we can see if there's something working. Say hello. Alright, so if I refresh here just to make sure, and then here if I click on add dataset, you can see here hello. Alright, so what we want to do here is basically add up a new dataset. To do this, we're going to work with a constant, and this constant consists of all of these items here. So let's start and work on that. So we say here constant, and this constant we can say, for example, here a new data set equals, and here we have the object here. So what we're doing here is object destructuring, and we're going to put it in step by step. So we can say here, for example, the label. What would be the label name? Exactly the same. We're going to copy this. We can put it in here, and maybe we could say here weekly sales, or we could say weekly cost, or if you want, we can say here the following. We say data set number, and then all we do is here plus, and here what we can do here is the data dot data set dot length, getting the length plus 1 here. And what we're really doing here is, because where are we getting the data? If you understand how the structure works in Chartjs, we have the data is in here, and then, oh sorry, not in here, but it should be in here. This is part of the data, and then you go to data sets, and then it will calculate the length here. That's basically what it's doing here. So what we're going to do here now is more, is for example the background color. We say here background color, and we can assign here as well a background color, which is this part here, and let's grab something. I'll just grab the last value here, put it in here. This is a string, so I will not spend any time on this one here. Then the same here will be for border color with a capital C, and oh, I need to just remove this, put it in here, comma, and then what we have here maybe is we could do here the same border width, and then after we have to get the data, I guess we should have the data here above. That should be the most appropriate place. Here we could put in, and I'm just going to put in a basic array, 3, 4, 5, up to 7. Alright, we have this. Make sure comma here, always commas. Here we could say here the border width, and this could be same value here, number 1. So once we did this, we have this one here, and this is basically our constant. So what we want to do is this constant, very simple. We want to push this data. So how do we push the data here? We're going to go in here in my chart. So we're going to grab the my chart here, and then we say data sets, and then dot push. So in the data set, basically, so in the my chart, and in my chart we have this constant for data, and if you're familiar with ES6, you know that data equals data, and that moment we can put in comma instead. So this is the shorthand of ES6. So basically here what it says is data, and then here would be this comma if we would put it in here. This is the old-fashioned style, but here's the comma, this is the shorthand. So we are in data, and then here data sets, and then we do push, and push basically adds a data set at the very end of this data set array. So we're going to add up in the array at the very last position, we attach another value. So push it to the end, and what are we going to push? It's basically this specific constant, because this constant consists of this entire object. So once we did this, put here a semicolon. The next thing we say my chart, and then we say here update, and then we update this. Once we save this and refresh, and now put this away, and if I say here add chart, we are now adding our specific value here, and I realize that the border color was not here. We only get the background color. Let's make the border color on solid 1, so it's equal to the black one here. So if I add up here, there we are. Alright, so as you can see here, the items here start to add up as well. Alright, so now we have everything here, and this looks all beautiful, and it works all accordingly. What I want to do now is next is to remove the data set. So how do we remove the data set? Remember, with push, we're attaching at the very end of the array a data. So the opposite of push is the pop value. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make here a new function, and I realize I need to put in here a semicolon just to make it more neat. And I say function, then I say here remove data set. And with remove data set, all we're going to do here is we don't have to do any kind of code or command. What we want to do is we want to push, or sorry, pop. And pop means removing the last value of an array. So what we're going to do here, basically this here, we get the my chart data sets. And the reason we're doing this is we're pinpointing which array we need to pop. We say pop. We don't have to put any value in there because pop will remove by default only the last value. That's it. Then we say here my chart dot update. Save this. And now if I refresh, we can add up this here and then we remove them. Oh, let me double check. Of course it didn't work. Why not? We didn't assign the function on the onclick. So we do here onclick equals remove dataset, save that, and then what I want to do here, just to make it a bit more organized, I want to put it below the chart card. And oh, alright, that's not what I want, I guess. Sorry, I'll just put it just below the canvas here. That should be fine. So there, here. Alright, that looks far more better. So now you can see here, if we add up here, and we add up, you can see the data set as get the numbers. That's what we did with the length, because it calculates the length of the array. And then it concatenates it all together. And what we did more is, the moment we press on remove, it starts to pop the last value. So maybe you say, wait a minute. This is nice, but what if I want to remove the very first value? Well, in that case, we don't do pop. But what we're going to do then is, we're going to do here is what we call shift. So if I save this now and refresh, you will see here now if I add up, and now I want to remove the very first array, and then press on this, there you are. And now, step by step, it starts to remove everything else. So this is basically how you can do this step by step. Alright? So now we have this here. So what about, you might say, alright, I have this now, I want to have now also the values, so, or specifically the data. Let's start to explore and let's add up in this added data. We want to push a new value in here. So what we're going to do is, we're going to put in here new button, and then we say here add data instead of data set. And then we say here also remove data. We say here add data, remove data. Alright. And then what we need to do here, we go down here, we need to add up a new function. So let's look what we're going to do here. So we say here remove, well this could be remove data. And then for this, we have to work slightly different. So if you're familiar now with the structure, and as I indicated here, it's the data sets. And I have another video that covers very deeply in this. That I also personally highly recommend that one for you to watch, which is the dynamic, how to update the chart dynamically. I'll put it here somewhere in the corner. You'll see a pop-up with that, or card notification. So what we're going to do here is basically we're going to add up this here, and we understand this here would be index 0. So we want to pinpoint it. So if we add up this one here, we press on this, that would mean that this would be index 1. So this is index 0 because this index, the data set is index 0. So if I add up this one here would be index for the data set number 1. Alright? So that's what we're going to do here. So I want to adjust this. So we can say here, for example, I'll just leave this here, but what I want to do is I'll copy this, and let's, instead of remove, I want to add here data. And then I'm going to say here my chart data set. Now remember, we put in here dataset 1. Then I say here push. Alright. What I will do here is I will say here value. We will push the value. I want to push that, and this value will be inserting in here. So you see this value here, add data, What is the value here? Let's say 100. So if I save this now, and I will refresh and press, if I press here on add data, nothing will happen. I think it might even give an error. And the reason why is we don't have any push value here of the first or of the other array, but the moment we add up a data and then we say add data here, let's see what happens. It doesn't work as well. Alright, add dataset push is not a function. Alright, let's double check here. What am I missing? This, let me say add data push that. Let's double check here. We have this one here. Let me double check this. Sorry, I realized I make a mistake, and the reason why is look at where I'm pinpointing. I'm pinpointing on the wrong location because I want to add a data set, and the truth is what I want to do is not a data set. I want to add a data in that specific data set. So we have pinpointed a specific data set, but we didn't pinpoint it where we need to push it. We need to push it in the data of dataset 1. Alright, so if I save this now and refresh, and now if I add a data, this should not work because there is none. And then if I add up a data, and then add up here, alright, something's adding up. The reason you're not seeing it right now is just for one reason. Chart.js works with a length here, this specific length of labels. And there are 7 labels in here. And this is the reason why you don't see it here, because we have 7 data points here. To see that one, we can do 2 things. We can remove the very first value in here. To remove that, alright, so let's start to play around with that one. We can say here, oh, that's the remove data. And we already experienced the remove data of pop. And we can also remove the data at the very beginning. So that's shift. So here, now if I add up a data set, and then I add a data, and then I say remove the data. Oh, let me double check. Sorry, same story here. 1.data. Play again. Alright. Refresh. Add the data. Then we add this item. You can see something happening. And then I say remove the very first data here. And there you are. So now you can see we get the data of 100. So let me reiterate everything. So let's break it down. So we have this here. We have basically here the pop. Pop is removing the last value of the array. And we have shift, which is removing the first value of the array. And then of course we have push, which is adding a value to the beginning, to the end of the array. And finally we have unshift, which is to add a value at the beginning of the array. So let's start to play around with unshift. You will see exactly what I'm talking about. So here you have this, and then let's do here now unshift. Save that, refresh, and now you will see if I would add a data set, and now I will say here add data, the very first one here. So what happens is it will add up new data here, and everything else will be pushed. So the last data here is pushed basically outside because we're missing here a specific item. What we could do is maybe to add up here in the labels as well something. So let's play around with that a little bit more so I have a full understanding of how to use this dynamically. So I'm going to say here, let's see, we can do this. I would say here label, add label, and then how do we get the label here? Well, basically it's in here. You have the labels, you say push, but we can do as well here or here, doesn't matter so much. Let's grab this one here. So how do we get there? We are in the data, and then data directly to labels. So we say here my chart data, and then not data sets, no, we say labels. Why labels? We go here from data, we go here immediately to the labels. So, and then here we say, let's add at the very end, and that would mean we're going to use the push value here. So we're going to push. What are we going to push? Well, let's put in here a specific value, testing, for example. So I'm going to add this button here. So it's right here. I'll copy this, put that one in here, and then we say here add label. This is add label. I'm not using a parameter here, but maybe we could do here is to say hello, and then I'm going to remove this one here and just say here this would be a text. We could give it even the label or something, doesn't matter. Now I'm going to remove, not in quotations then. The reason why, because now it's a variable, so it should be a variable here. So then it will update, it will push a value into here, which would be whatever the text was. Alright, so if I do this one now and I press add label, what is happening is we're adding up now the item here. So then we can add up a data set here, and we can add a data, and you can see this one is an unshift, and it pushes everything to the right. And there we are. And if we do again, it keeps on, and then there we are. You can go on and on and on, and you can do all kinds of things with it. So with this, basically you can add and remove data as well at the same time. And you can add data sets, remove data sets. You can do all kinds of options here. And if we add up more labels, you can see it starts to expand the chart. And if you really want to do it more fancy, instead of this, you could, for example, make it rotate. You can say here, and then we're going to do a unshift here. Oh, sorry, not an unshift, it's a shift. So what we're going to do is we're going to remove one at the beginning and add a new one to the end. So basically it's rotating. So we save this, refresh now, and then we say here, is it add label? Pay attention here. Now it's Tuesday and hello, and then there we are. And the same would be able to do with, of course, with this here. We could do here a value, and this was adding it at the very beginning. And let's say we want to pop something at the very end. We say here, pop. Alright. And then we're going to refresh. And then what we're going to do here, add a data set. Alright. And then we say here, add data. And pay attention. You can see here now, which adjusting it step by step. There we are. So with this, you can do a lot more. And most important one is to make sure you study these here. And I will show the other link as well, which I highly recommend you to do, is to study the dynamic chart. I'll put them in the description down below and also in the comment section, so you can follow that video as well, because that one goes very deep in this and will teach you a lot more. So this video is very good. So now you understand the basics, and I highly recommend you to watch this specific video here, adding dynamic values in Chartjs 3, because this one explains it more in detail, and I highly recommend that to explore.